And I know perhaps, new building, we're still getting used to it, working out the kinks, perhaps. And that's okay, that's part of growth. Amen? This morning's Torah portion is Lech Lecha. When you yourself go forth. Amen?
Amen.
And this Torah portion largely, predominantly focuses on the life of Abram. But the question within the life of Abram is, why does it take up when he's so old? Why does it start there? Amen. There's that. But here's the thing. And love it when these things happen. All right. Stay. Good point. All right. Why does the Torah start up when he's 75? Yes.
Because Abraham studied with Noah and his sons.
Okay. Yes. Very good.
It took a lifetime.
Amen. But here's the question, and it's good. It's the right answer. Yes.
I think it was because he had had plenty of time to see that era of life up to then, and it was just God just using him to start something new, to do something new. And Abraham could understand that he'd already lived all that. Like us, when we come to the Lord, we don't want to go back because we already know where we came from, so we're ready to move on.
Okay, fair enough.
Because it was his time.
So it's just timing. That's actually a really great answer. All right, hang on. You had your answer. Is it the same answer?
No.
Is there more on it? You can't change your answer now. All right.
I'm going to add something. Actually, there are.
It's an amendment. Go ahead.
There are stories, there are scriptures that do speak about Abraham earlier in life.
Okay.
But those scriptures have been taken out from our lives.
Okay, we're not going to get into all that this morning, but yes, there are references, and even amongst the sages within the Mishnah and the other collections, it does talk about Abraham briefly in all of those. And I would put a little bit more weight in the Mishnah than I would in some of the secondary books, personally, because they've been scrutinized over the years, whereas the second books have just kind of been left alone. So that's, yes. But why does the Torah itself only take up his life at 75? And the questions that the rabbis come up with, the answer is just as brother had said. He had been studying with his forefathers. And even when he wasn't with them, he still had to hold. Paul gives us the insight in his description on Abraham. He said he is a man of faith. He said he is a man of faith. So Abraham, very much like we see Jonah, or very much like we see other patriarchs and matriarchs, they had to hold on to the promise of God until God loosed it in his timing.
Amen.
Because sometimes it's not in our time. Sometimes it's not in the moment, in the second, in the quick Happy Meal moment that we want it to be in.
Amen.
Sometimes he has to mold you and loose things from you before he can make you get that blessing that you've been wanting, that healing that you've been asking for, that baby that you've been desiring, that financial increase that you've been wanting.
Amen.
Sometimes you have to be loose to certain behaviors so that way you can appropriately handle the blessing that he has for you.
Amen.
Abraham in his youth, he perhaps could not have held on to his faith and led a whole nation out throughout the journey that he went on. But he had to establish and strengthen his faith by holding dearly onto it with all that he was there in the land of Ur. Sometimes we have to hold on to our faith right where we are.
Amen.
Right where God has us. And we want the increase. We want the blessing. And God is saying, hold on. It's coming. Be faithful. No matter how many times you have to defend your faith, do it, for my son has done it. Do it, for your patriarchs have done it. Your matriarchs have done it. If you think about the comparison, Abraham held on to his faith for 75 years before God spoke to him. And we get mad if we don't hear from God for a week. Like, Lord, where are you? Have you abandoned me, Lord? It's been a week. I have a headache today, Lord. Why haven't you healed my headache? How come you haven't prayed it away? How come you haven't started eating kosher, keeping a healthy diet? How come you haven't maintained the temple I gave you?
Amen.
Amen.
We all want to kick around. God, I haven't heard from you. David, I'm in a dry and weary place. Where are you, Lord? He's there.
Amen. That's right.
Where are you? Where are you this morning, this week? Or at the first sign of difficulty, do you up and drop your faith and head on to a greener pasture only to get there to realize, hey, that yard has bugs too?
Amen.
True story, there was a neighbor of ours, they sold their house, sold their cars, sold everything they had, and they moved up to the north side. And they bought this really nice and elaborate home. It was very nice, and it was they were set for their retirement. And they say, no. A year in over here, yes, the house is nice, but the yard still has issues. The house still needs things that need to be mended. Nothing has changed but the scenery. Nothing has changed but the scenery. So it's for us to make the changes in our lives. God gave us all the power and authority under heaven. But you have to do it. No rabbi, no priest, no prophet can pray things away from you. And they stay gone without your walking out your faith.
Amen.
You have to walk it out. Abraham, yes, he learned from his generations before him. He learned about God and learned a lot of the oral traditions through that. But he still had to hold on to his faith in a land of pagans. He still had to know that he would hear from God. He still had to know that he was designed by God. He had to know that he was destined by God. And then at the ripe age of 75, God spoke and said, it's time to get thee out of thy father's house. It's time. And you wonder, how much faith did Abraham have to be called a man of faith? And in comparatively speaking to us, how much faith do we have that we get rattled when somebody doesn't show up to do what they said they would do? How much faith do we have if we get rattled when there's nobody sitting next to me in synagogue today, so I don't know. How much faith do we have when we're going through challenges and trials? When we fall downstairs? How much faith do we have? Will we hold on to God in His tzitzi?
Amen.
Or will we quickly see the bright shining sign at the side of the road and exit the first possible chance we get? It's all too easy to exit on your road with God. And then you see something shiny and you get stuck there in what seemed to be pretty and nice, but really was nothing worth the time of your life you wasted. And I say it like that because we're not promised tomorrow. We are not promised tomorrow. None of us are.
Amen.
Yeshua is the only one in the whole Bible that had a set time when He was going.
Amen.
The rest of us are not promised that. So what are you doing now? Don't worry about yesterday. Don't worry about tomorrow. What are you doing now? Let me say it this way. In John 15, starting at verse 15, Yeshua says, I am the true vine, but my Father is the gardener. He cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit.
Amen.
Now this is critical, because there are some branches that are bearing bad fruit. And it's up to those branches to begin to walk in faith and by faith. Why does God leave those branches there if they're bearing bad fruit? What is the purpose of that? What is the purpose of that? What is the purpose of Him leaving branches that bear bad fruit?
Cut off eventually.
Yeah, but why are they there now?
Maybe so we can see the good and the bad.
Yes, but it's to help you grow. You cannot grow without growing pains. A seedling cannot start to grow without breaking through that hard shell. And it is a difficult process. You have to cut off, cast away, put away your old husk, your old life, because you are being transformed into a new creation through our Messiah Yeshua. Through our faith in Messiah Yeshua, we are neither Jew nor Gentile, but one new
body.
All right, 2 people knew that. All right. I know what y'all are going to be reading later. We are one new person. Amen?
Amen.
My Father is the gardener. He cuts off every branch that has no fruit, while every branch that does bear fruit, He prunes, He trims, He caretakes over it, so that it will be even more fruitful. And we see this reflected in the Proverbs of Solomon. Right? Each will bear fruit into its own kind. And those who plant seeds of evil, those who do gossip, those who do these other things, they're only going to keep harvesting these things until their own demise. For those who choose to plant good fruit, do good things, they will harvest good, and it is to their blessing and to their credit as children of God. So there's a big, sharp contrast. Gossip and other stuff being a blessing. Sharp contrast. You have to decide it is for you to adjust the cycle, adjust the pattern, adjust the habits that you have developed, the man-made traditions that you perhaps walk in every single day. Well, I get up, I go to work, I do this, and you have the same pattern every single week. And the amount of God within that pattern is almost minute, aside from the moment that you decide that, hey, today I'm going to bless the congregation and come to shul. Oh wait, was that personal for somebody? If it was, I'm not sorry. It is not about you and I and how good or bad our attendance is with God. It is about us becoming a member of His kingdom.
Amen.
And being a member of His kingdom means that you show up and you show out. That you represent God in all that you do, in all that you say, in all that you perceive to be about. Just as Abraham, when he spent 75 years in the land of Ur, surrounded with pagans. And I'm sure there were a lot of shiny distractions to the left and to the right of Abraham in that land of Ur. I'm sure there were a lot of other things that seemed like they might make sense. But he knew what his grandfather told him. He knew how his great-grandfather walked with God and talked with God. And that there was no God beside this God. Everything else was just a clay pot. Why do we keep putting so much in clay pots? Investing over and over again of our time, more so than our finances, because finances come and go, but your time you can never buy back.
Amen.
You can never get a single day of youth back, no matter how rich or poor you are. Ask anybody over 40, they'll tell you, man, my 20s came and gone. I don't know where they went. And we always refer to our 20s because they weren't as awkward as our teens. And they weren't perhaps as challenging as the 30s, because then you realize you're getting old. You're no longer 20s, you're now 30s. Then you get into the 40s, and well, ask Cohen, I'm sure you can, or even the elders, will tell you exactly the timelines and the feelings in their journey with God. The point, however, is that we don't get time back. You don't get that. You're given forever in one of two destinations. But it's your choice where you go. And it's the same question that we see in Abraham. How faithful to God will we be when we don't hear His voice? When there's something shiny on the side of the road? When we feel like being in a certain way? Will you get off the road and chase the shiny thing? Will you give in to the feeling and cast away your faith in God? Yeshua goes on to say, if you remain in me, however, my word, the Torah, will remain in you. remain in Yeshua, His Torah will remain within you.
Amen.
And whatever you ask will be done for you in His time, in your faith. It's His. This is to be to my Father's glory, that you will bear much fruit, showing yourselves to be true disciples of the Word.
Amen.
That you would bear much fruit. And just as my Father has loved me, so I have loved you. Now choose to remain in my love. Again, it's a choice. God took out Abraham, took him outside, and he said, look towards the heavens and count the stars, if you are able to count them. And he said to him, so shall your descendants be, so shall your blessings be. Then Abram knew that his faith was not in vain, and he believed anew in God. And he reckoned it to him as righteousness. All throughout Abraham's journey, we see him going, let's see, I don't misquote it. He goes from Ur and Haran up to Canaan. He passes through the land of Shechem, Bethel, and the Negev, back to Egypt, back to the Negev, back to Bethel. Then so basically he's going north, south, east, and west. Or actually, east and west. So we see the sign of the coming salvation there within Abraham's walk itself. That it should be outreaching towards all. Towards every direction. That you yourself should carry it with you wherever you go. And yes, Abraham was challenged. He let fear overcome him. He thought that they might not have food. He thought that they might be low on things. So what does he do? He takes off to Egypt. He heads off to Egypt. And because he's there in Egypt, fear comes over him. The Torah says fear comes over him, that they might put him to death to steal Sarah. So he enters into Egypt and he lies. She's my sister. Really? Y'all don't look nothing alike. No, yeah, she's my sister. We just look different. That's how our dad is. He has two different sides on his face. It's crazy. Yeah. He lies. Abraham, the father of our faith, our patriarch, the father of two faiths, well, technically three, lies. Because he gets up, goes to Egypt, even though he had seen God deliver him from the 4 kings, he had heard God's voice, seen God's promise in the stars, and every night he got to look out on the stars and see God's promise every single evening. But I think they have baklava in Egypt. I'm going to go to baklava. We don't have any of that here. They got the good hummus over there. I'm going to go over there because they got the good hummus. They eat pork over there. I'm going over there, you know. I never really got into the kosher thing anyhow. I mean, that's just for the Jews, you know. I'm only grafted in. Why do I got to do it? And we keep looking and keep looking and keep looking. Well, I'm being challenged here where I am. I'm not making any. I'm being challenged here where I am. So I think it's best that I just go to a different place and maybe, you know, it'll be easier for me there. Really? You want it easy? So you want your gains and your growth to be minimal, right? You want your blessings to be minimal, right? Because anybody here will tell you, anything you want in life, you have to do what for?
Work.
I'm sorry, y'all say that again. I didn't hear y'all. Y'all have to what?
Work.
You gotta work for it, right? It's not just gonna, Jehovah Jireh, here it is. Now, I know somebody's going to say, well, wait, hold up, he did this. Yeah, all right, let's look at the context of when he did this. The children of Israel were going through their journey of growth throughout the wilderness, right? And as they're growing, as they're journeying, as they're walking in obedience and faith, he is blessing them. But they still, nonetheless, had to set up camp every day. They had to walk every day. They had to choose to make the journey, choose to take up the path every single day and make the journey every moment. They had to choose to keep walking for God and keep going by His instructions. They didn't just, hey, here it is, there it is, and just go back and sit on the couch and that's it. No, they had to get up and journey every single day. Every day. They had to take God's promise with them and set it before them. God gives us this wonderful bit in Isaiah. Listen to me, you who pursue righteousness, you who seek God. Look to the rock from which you were hewn, to the quarry from which you were dug. Look to Abraham and Sarah, who gave birth to you in pain. When he was but one, I called him, I blessed him, I multiplied him. Indeed, I, the Lord, comfort Zion, and he will comfort all of her branches. God chooses to comfort you. He wants to be there for you, but you have to make your journey. I don't know what kind of wilderness some of you are going through right now, or what exits some of you have taken off the road with God. But I'm inviting you this morning to get back on the road with God and to begin to ride in His vessel yet again, as His vessel.